All right, Daniel. Now we're going to talk about Celtic. Of course, Frank McAvenny, Hoops legend, has just joined us. Brendan Rodgers, his future, question marks about this season. What are you thinking about his future from a fan's perspective? Do you want him gone? Is he likely to go in the summer? Where do you stand?
I think we've all had plenty of time to think about this. We were talking before we started recording earlier on, and I go back to the first half of the Motherwell game where we did end up coming back to win, and I started to think that no matter what happens at the end of the season, I don't think Brendan Rodgers is the long-term option for Celtic as manager. Even if Celtic were to win the league, I just think there's been too many issues on and off the field this season for it to be harmonious enough for it to go on. It kind of feels like the last few months of his time in charge back in 2018, 2019, where something is not quite right. Now, obviously, we've seen Mark Lawwell and Joe Dudgeon leave the club last week from a recruitment point of view. Who knows whose decision that was, whether that was their decision or whether they were pushed out. So it's good to see the club is acting behind the scenes to make changes, because those changes clearly need to be made. But in terms of the manager, I like Brendan Rodgers. I wanted him to come back in the summer. There has been some good moments. But I think it's hard to see right now how it goes on, particularly with such a disappointing transfer window where, he had made it clear on so many different occasions, win, lose or draw, by the way, that we needed to make significant improvements in January in terms of quality, to boost the team, to fill certain gaps, to give us a real chance of pushing ahead in the title race, and it didn't happen. We made 2 signings. Nicholas Kuhn doesn't look yet like he's going to make a significant contribution. And that's obviously massively disappointing. Adamida has done very well so far, but as far as we can tell, there's not even a buyout clause in his loan deal. So he is going back to Norwich in the summer as it stands. And based on the way that he's played so far, I could see Norwich wanting to hold on to him or wanting to sell him on to a club that would be willing to pay good money for him. So, the January transfer window was a disaster. And it's hard to tell. It's not hard to tell. I think from as Brendan Rodgers' point of view, I don't think he's got what he was looking for from either the January window or the summer window. And it's very hard to see this relationship between Rodgers and Peter Lawwell, Michael Nicholson, Dermot Desmond working out this time, to a point where it's worth him staying. So I think right now, unless we see significant changes over the next couple of months, depending on which way the title goes, it's very hard for me to see him staying on.
Frank, what are your thoughts? Do you think he was let down by the board in the transfer windows? Has he got a future potentially at Celtic Park, or do you think he needs to go?
I think he's one of the top coaches he's going about. I don't think that there's any doubt. There's any doubt in that. There's no way Brendan would have come back without getting a guarantee of Dermot that spend money, because every signing that's came in has been a project. Now, you might get 1 or 2 of them. You might not get any. That's the biggest problem. And I for some reason, listen, I like the club, I like the board, but what they've done to Brendan, I think, is that's sort of disgraceful, because Peter came out and says, we try to sign players. Well, who have we tried to sign? Tell us. And then maybe people will say, yeah, fair enough. But I can't see, I don't know what you guys think, but I can't see Brendan buying Boy Kuhn. I don't think that's one of his signings. So that's from Mark Lawwell, who is no longer there now. It wasn't Brendan pushing him. He just had to go because, his signings and some of the things that you're hearing, whether it's true or not, he was talking to people on a stag do and all that kind of stuff. Really? You try to sign players and you're on a stag do and there's a lot of noise going about. And if he said, look, my stag do's, it would have been wild. So it's the kind of thing that you really don't do. But I just don't know why. Listen, Brendan's working with him. I don't get. You guys might know what's up with Roski again. Is he injured again?
Yeah, he is injured again.
I thought that would be my back four. Johnson, Carter-Vickers, Narosky, and Scales at left back. That would be my back four. That's who I would play for now until the end of the season if you can get the four of them fit. Because I think he's a good player, Narosky, but he needs a run. And everyone's raving about Scales, but when he comes up against a good player, centre forward, it gets turned over because he's good at going and winning the ball when it's there, but he doesn't know. He's not aware of what's around about him. You know what I said to you before? I'd score against him because he watches the ball. I mean, I couldn't run away from him, but I could get in behind him because you just experiencing. He'd be better at left back because then you're watching everything coming across the box, aren't you? And he was good at Aberdeen, so that's my back four sorted. I feel for the boy Yang because at the weekend that's a disgraceful decision, and then to get another game off the SFA, it just shows you the way Scottish football works. They're an absolute disgrace. They're a liability to the SFA, and I don't really care if I say that. It's embarrassing what they've done. Some of the decisions that they make in the handball, giving Brendan into trouble for that. I don't know if it's Brendan's fault. You can have a go. I get it. It's a result business. But some of these boys that have came in, they're definitely no Brendan. So I would give them. I'd give them a summer and see what happens. I still think getting everyone fit, getting Tati back in a couple of weeks. But I think we're still a better team than Rangers. But you've got to go and prove it. Individually, I think they're better.
Frank, are you concerned, though, that if Rodgers is charged and then does miss the Rangers game, could that be a concern for the title race? It's him actually not being there on the day, especially in the dugout. Would that be a worry?
Nah, not really, because it's done, to be honest with you, it's done during the week. Everything's done in the build-up to that game. That you go away and you're there all week, and now it's just the final. The manager's just going around and talking to people individually and saying, look, this is what I want. There's nothing on the day that he's going to say to you that he's not already said to you. So I can understand. I can get that one. People think it's all about the day. It's not. They just people go into their zone, especially when it's a big game like that. And I've not really got too much problems about it because we went there. I thought we'd get turned over the last time we went there and we beat them with a second-rate team. And it was embarrassing. Even the Rangers fans said it was embarrassing. But it just shows you everyone thought Rangers were going to win that game, and it just shows you the form book is out the window when it comes to Celtic and Rangers. And so it's interesting. We've got a couple of games. It'll be 2 games before that. Don't know how many games is it before that. Before the Old Firm game, we've got a cup tie and another one, haven't we? Is that what we've got? So we'll see. You've got to get that sorted out. He's going to miss Yang. Yang will be back for the Old Firm game then, if that's the case. But I wouldn't mind the Tati, in there as well. Player. I'd love him to be back for the Rangers game. Even if you get an hour off him, he's better than what we've got. Callum, through no fault, maybe he's just catching up with him because he's played so many games for so many years. He's never missed a game. Maybe it's just catching up with him this season. So, this couple of weeks break he's had, if you remember when he got the eye socket injury, when he came back from that, it was the best we've seen him because he had a long-term layoff, and it's done him good. So maybe this injury or whatever he's got, a couple of weeks might do him the world of good because he's not been the same as in. He's passing sideways and backwards, but he used to drive at people to make things happen. You can't wait and things happen. You've got to try and make it happen. So I'm looking forward. It's
funny though, Frank, is that I do agree with you, but I think Sunday showed just how much we miss him when he's not there.
Do you think so?
I think massively.
I think we miss him. I think you're right. We miss him. I mean, he's a wonderful talent, but the last month or so, I don't think he's been at his best. So, and passing sideways, he's been super safe. Whereas we don't need that.
I think again the way that it panned out, and you're absolutely right about the decisions that went against Celtic on Sunday. I think we could talk about that till we're blue in the face. But I think in a game like that where Celtic were down to 10 men and needed, I think in a game like that you need someone like McGregor who's experienced, who's got the ability to drive a team on when things are going against
See, I
him.
don't think so.
I thought we missed
disagree.
him on Sunday in that regard.
And I think he's a captain, but he's certainly no Scott Brown. When it comes to leader, when it comes to he's got more talent than Scott, but when it comes to being a leader, I'm not sure he's got that. Is it? I mean, I've not seen it. You might tell me I'm wrong, but certainly this season I've not seen it. In past seasons you see him driving everyone, shouting at everyone, but this season I've not seen it. So that's maybe a wee bit concerned for me, but he might just be trying to look after his own game, because he's not been the best form. But he's a wonderful talent, as I say. He's a great leader. If you can when they're going well, he's great. But you need somebody like Scott Brown or somebody in there now to say, look, everything's against us, and that's what the manager will be doing in the dressing room. He'll be saying that in the dressing room. The SFA. I mean, social media is a wonderful thing, guys. You know more than I do because I don't use it a lot. But some of the things that I've been seeing on social media, when they say that's a handball, and then, of course, you can't hide anywhere now because all the ones at the net, the balls come off the Rangers player's arm, and it's vice versa. I mean, don't be wrong. They say that about us as well. But sometimes you would like consistency, wouldn't you? Either one's a penalty or they're all a penalty. You can't give one and not give the other and all that kind of stuff.
I was gonna ask Daniel. I'm intrigued from like a fan's perspective. What is the split, do you think, between sort of Brendan Rodgers in and out? And actually, if Celtic don't win the league, is that the decider for Brendan Rodgers? If Celtic do turn it around and they go and win it, actually, which might not be a surprise necessarily because it is coming down to the wire, will that actually sort of give Brendan Rodgers leverage for at least another season?
I think it's a really good question. I think for me, if we, the scenario plays out as it is at the moment, and we finish second and we don't win the league, I said this back in December when we last spoke about Celtic and Rangers here on the podcast. I said if Celtic don't win the league, Brendan Rodgers should not be the Celtic manager. I absolutely still maintain that opinion, although it's shifted a little bit since then as well in terms of even if we do win the league. If we do win the league, it's definitely going to be a bit more of a split in the fan base. However, there has been growing angst from large swathes of the supporters, against the people running the club. It's easy to just say the board because we've always kind of used that term, haven't we? Celtic fans, it's fans against the board. I think it's a bit more complicated than that, and I think there are a lot of Celtic fans who see Brendan Rodgers as kind of part of that sort of. I don't want to use the term establishment, but it's the best one I can kind of come up with. Brendan Rodgers is a guy who, seems to have a very good personal relationship with Desmond. I think that played a huge part in him coming back in the summer. And Dermot Desmond, although he doesn't actively invest in the club because it doesn't work like that, he has a huge say in what happens, who the manager is, what the direction is of the football club, financially, whether he's there day to day or not, he has that influence. And I think if we, even if we do win the league, I think there'll still be a lot of supporters that want to see some sort of long-term plan over the next 4 or 5 years. And unfortunately, I don't think that was what the club did in the summer. I think with Brendan being available, it made a lot of sense to go back to him and ask him if he would be willing to come back, which clearly he was. And for good reason. I think he felt like he had unfinished business. I think a lot of fans felt there was unfinished business there. But the way things have panned out so far, I think most fans would, even if we did win the title, would not be hugely disappointed if Brendan moves on and we look to somebody different to kind of take us forward. As to who that's going to be, well, that's the $1 million question, because I don't know. I think a lot of the realistic options that were presented last summer are no longer available, particularly Enzo Maresca.
You've just watched a segment from Football Insider's brand new podcast, The Inside Track, with me, Lewis Pearce, alongside the guests on the show. Thanks very much for tuning in. Please do give the video a like, comment your thoughts on the topic, and feel free to share on your social media pages. If you want to listen to the full podcast episode, click the link in the description below. Keep your eyes peeled for plenty more content and exclusives here on The Inside Track.